Hey everybody, Robert O'Brien from O'Brien Guitars here. Welcome aboard to this shop talk. My gosh, this is number 13 already. Time flies. I hope everybody's able to join along here and click in, and hope that link's working. If there's a problem with the audio or the video as we work here, please let me know. On my end, looks like all systems are go. So you guys let me know here in the chat box. This is just amazing how many people we have joining us here. This is just crazy. Hey, there's my wife. She's got a cup of coffee. Look at that. There's a girl from Ipanema. Come on over here. For those folks that don't know the girl from Ipanema, this is my wife, Diana. We affectionately call her the girl from Ipanema, also known as Miss Brazil, and she makes a mean cup of Brazilian coffee. So we're going to enjoy a cup of coffee here as we work today. You ready? Yep. Okay. And if you guys want to enjoy a cup of coffee with me, feel free to do so. In fact, I think in the description of the text here on YouTube, there's some links down there to the Amazon links that I have, affiliate links, and I think one of them is for Brazilian coffee. A couple of them in there for Brazilian coffee that I just happened to order up, and I usually buy it when I go to Brazil, but I found out they have it on Amazon as well. And Miss Brazil does it right. She even frosts the milk for me and all kinds of stuff. So it's really done right. So enjoy. Well, let's get started here. Got a lot of information to give you today about neck joints. And let's just acknowledge who's here. My God, it's just amazing. Adriana, I'm showing 60 people on here. Is that what you're showing?
Wow. Yeah, 66.
Wow. All the way over there from Italy. Staffan, thanks for joining in. Larry from Austin, Ann Arbor, Michigan, Tennessee, Flagstaff, Arizona, Calgary, Canada, Castle Rock. That's just down the road here, about 15 minutes. Giuseppe from also, let's see, where are you from? Doesn't say. I assume it's Italy. Thinking of building my first guitar. I have most of the tools needed, and I have experience with wood shop. I'm not decided if I need to buy a kit or go from a scratch experience. Suggestions. Well, let's just go ahead and jump right into it here. We'll roll up both sleeves. The word kit is kind of a misnomer. I order what I call a kit from LMI, but it's their unserviced kit. It's just a box of lumber. In fact, I got one over my bench over there. Heck, I might as well just show it to you. Let me see if I can get that camera up. I'm going to run over there real quick. And what I've got over here is an LMI kit. And it's just a box of lumber, as you can see. Nothing's pre-done. You get to do it all yourself, and that's where the fun lies. All of these materials here on my bench, because Monday morning I have a student showing up from Louisiana, and we're going to build a guitar together. And I always have my students order the LMI kit. And it's just, as you can see, a box of lumber. I mean, some blocks and stuff. It's kind of pre-dimensioned. You know, I still have to shape everything and cut it down and bend the sides, thickness the top, thickness the back, glue everything together, you know, make the neck from scratch. So, you know, the only thing that's pre-done in this kit, I believe, is the rosette, which is pre-made, and some kerfing right here. Because that takes a little bit of time to make, and it's just busy work, so I have LMI do that for us. But other than that, it's from scratch. However, if you want LMI to do some of the work for you, let's say that you don't have a joiner or a thickness planer or a thickness sander or, you know, some of the tools, the side bending machine, just have them do that before they ship it out to you. They can bend the sides for you. And I tell you what, that's great insurance. If you got a high dollar set of sides, let them have the risk. It's a great insurance policy. They'll bend it for you. And I've got a beautiful set of Brazilian rosewood here that the student coming in on Monday has shipped in. Look at this stuff, huh? Isn't that pretty? Got some nice sapwood down the center seam there, and the sides also have a bit of sapwood. We'll probably get rid of the sapwood on the sides. But this is some beautiful Brazilian rosewood, and I think he's going to use this to build with rather than the Indian rosewood that came in the kit. By the way, do you know how to tell if this is really the true Brazilian rosewood? I give it what I call the scratch and sniff test. If you just scratch it and then sniff it, this is Brazilian rosewood. there's no way to not know that this is Brazilian. If you've ever smelled Brazilian rosewood, you know that this is it. It has a very tutti fruity, bubblegummy, sweet kind of smell. And there's a lot of wood out there being sold as Brazilian rosewood that does not pass the scratch and sniff test. And this certainly does. So my whole shop is probably going to be smelling like Brazilian rosewood come Monday morning. So anyway, we just answered our first question there. I'm going to walk back over here to the other camera and turn the other camera back on. There we go. I'm back. The magic of technology here. So let's see. We were acknowledging people here. Steve from Rochester. Another one from San Diego. Al Ferrari. Welcome aboard. I think I remember getting an email from you, Al, this or maybe a phone call this week. So thanks for joining in. Massachusetts, Slovenia. Look at that. New Hampshire.
There's a question for you from Al Ferrari.
Okay, let's see. We got the UK. There's Mo over there. Castle Rock. There's another person from Castle Rock. It's just down the street here. Another person from the UK. Texas is thawing out. Well, you guys in Texas really be going through it. I have a sister that lives down in the Austin area, and yeah, it's pretty frozen down there right now. So I hope you guys can survive down there, and everything's going to thaw out this coming week, I think, for you. Todd from Florida, welcome aboard. DC suburbs. Duarte. Last week I purchased your classical guitar building course. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I already started building a very good course with awesome information. Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad you're enjoying the course there. Let's see. There's somebody called Now You Are Like Me. All right. Well, welcome aboard. Let's see. North Carolina is on board here. Omaha. Lakewood, Colorado, Toronto, San Diego, North Carolina. Oh, let's see. Boy, I lost my place here. Colombia, Australia. Wow. Al says that my site says that the materials from LMI are about $475. He put it all together, it's around $560. Is that correct? Basic Indian rosewood and Sitka top. Yeah, unless they've raised their prices, they usually come in here between $450 and $475 for my students. If you get the KLS RO kit, that's about what it should be, or the KLS or the KLC RO kit, which is a classical Robert O'Brien and the steel string Robert O'Brien kits. If you get those kits, they're about $450, $475, unless they had to raise their prices. Rollo is here. Hey, Rollo, how you doing, buddy? He's down there in Texas, too. In fact, Rollo's so far south in Texas. He's down there in Victoria, Texas. He told me that every time Brazil scores a goal, he can hear him cheering. That's how far south he is. Neck joints, one of my favorite topics. That's right. We're going to get into some neck joints here real quick. And he's from Montana.
So you did skip a page. Like we have people from Lakewood, Toronto,
Portugal, Portland. Man, I missed a whole bunch of people.
It's not Portland, it's Portugal. You just missed out.
Oh, okay.
North Carolina, Chicago.
My God. Well, thank you for bringing that to my attention. We got 71 people. We might as well go ahead and just jump right into it. We've already answered one question. Today, we're going to be giving away a neck angle jig from LMI. And LMI has graciously donated that here to the cause. Now, to be eligible for that, you have to click on that link that I'm looking at here in my in the YouTube chat. It's clicked into or it's pinned to the top of the YouTube chat, and you have to click this link. When you click on that, all it's going to ask you for is your name and your email address. That way, we know who to contact. Actually, you have to be on the stream. It's live, and we're going to have a drawing, and you have to be live, and that way we know who to say, hey, you've won this neck angle jig. And it's a pretty nice jig. It's what I use here in my classes with my students. We've used it hundreds and hundreds of times to dial in the correct neck angle. And it's a really fantastic jig, and LMI is going to be giving that away. So thank you, LMI. We certainly appreciate that. And unless anybody has any other questions, I think we should just jump right in and start talking about neck joints. What do you think, Adriana? She's on about a 30-second delay there, so she's running the chat box for me, and so it's about a 30-second delay. We got somebody from Norway, somebody else from Italy. Saludos, Vic. I don't know where that's from.
Giuseppe is not really in Italy. He's from Italy, but he's in Idaho.
Oh, okay. Wow. Rollo down there in Victoria, Texas said he just finished fixing his mother-in-law's plumbing. I guess he froze. Wow, what a mess. All right, well, let's talk about neck joints. There's several types of neck joints. I've got a few guitars here behind me. We'll start with those, and then I'll transition into talking about the neck angle jig. that I use here in my classes and for my personal guitars. So probably the simplest neck joints, and you guys feel free to. I mean, this is completely interactive here. We're live. If things go south, they go south. So if you have questions, put them in the chat box here. If I'm not able to see them, my wife here behind the camera will call it to my attention. There's somebody up there in Laramie. Hey, how you doing, Camille? Good to hear from you. Mark from Virginia. So probably the simplest neck joint is what you see on an electric guitar. And there's a couple of different types of neck joints. Let me just start by pulling one up here. This one is just a simple bolt-on with a metal plate. And you have 4 screws in there and just a metal plate. You can get them in chrome and black and satin and all different types. And you just route a cavity on the guitar and then insert the neck in there. And then just bolt it on there. Now, hopefully when you bolt it on, you've already figured out your geometry and you've got the left and right and the pitch and everything ready to go. Yes, Adriana.
So there's a question from Nathan Pearson. Ever had to deal with a Martin ice cream cone neck heel? I have a 1860s Martin.
The Martin ice cream cone neck heel, and I've had several old Martins come through my shop here. I've never had an ice cream cone come through there, although I had one here in my shop just recently. It was probably from 1840 to 1860 area. It's definitely pre-Civil War, but it did not have the ice cream cone. The ice cream cone is just like any other joint, you know. You can steam those things off of there and just pull them all off, and they all come apart in pieces. But no, I personally have never dealt with one, but do a little research on the internet, and there's all kinds of pictures out there. I think John Hall has put some out there too. Cesar is my developer down in Brazil. He's helping me run the chat here all the way down south down there in Brazil. Hey, Cesar, how you doing? And he's responsible for the drawing, the LMI neck angle jig we're going to be giving away here in a little bit. And make sure that you click on that link, put your name and your email address so that you can become eligible. Another question. Tops typically have a radius. However, is the upper bout typically dead flat to accept the flat underside of the fingerboard? Thank you, Jim. Jim, no, it's not dead flat. I'm going to put this guitar down and we'll get right into that. In fact, I'm going to pull, this question caught me by surprise, but I've got a top in my humidified room in there. I'm going to pull that out, and I think this will help answer your question. So give me just a second here. Adriana, you want to sing for us while I grab this out of here or something?
Sure, I'm just going to loop them all.
The girl from Ipanema or something, maybe? All right. So this is jumping ahead a little bit, but I'll go ahead and get into it, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when we get over to the neck angle jig. By the way, if you want to be eligible for that, click on that link, email, name, that way you're eligible. What he's talking about is this part of the top. When we glue the braces on the top, typically we do it in a radius dish. I just happen to use a 30-foot radius dish for everything below the sound hole. Everything above the sound hole, I glue up on a flat surface. So for you math whiz out there, you've already figured out that there's a compound radius on the top. This is domed into a 30-foot radius. This is as flat as possible because the upper transverse brace and the tongue depressor have been glued on a flat surface. Now, how does that work? Because when you radius the rims, don't you put a radius on the block and the rims up in that area? Well, yes, you do. So how does that work? Well, it just does. What you do is when you put this on there, just a little light pressure, and that folds everything down into the block and makes a radius on it. But however, right where your fretboard goes is a little flatter than gluing everything up in the radius dish. And so it's kind of a compound radius, and this area is a little flat. I also come in after the neck or after the body's closed. I've done my bindings. When I'm scraping my bindings flush, I do a little sanding in this area and also a little sanding here. That way, when you set the neck, you have a little bit better chance of getting it right from the start. And then you see, got another question?
Yeah, I have more questions.
Hopefully that answers your question. I believe that was from Jim. Go ahead.
3-card Monty. What do you tell a client who's had 6 cracks on a cedar soundboard and he won't humidify the Taylor and he keeps complaining of fret pass?
Tell him to get a humidifier. I participate on a private group on Facebook, where we talk about among ourselves as professionals. We ask questions back and forth, and one of the people on there this week posted and said that a guy came into her shop, had a Martin or some guitar, and thought that the cracks that were happening were not due to lack of humidity, but were due to the price of the guitar. So if he went and got a Taylor, for example, a little higher end, it wouldn't crack, right? Or if I went to an even higher level guitar, yeah, it wouldn't crack. Well, those kind of people you need to educate. I live in Colorado. I'm just going to set that top down there. I live in Colorado, and it's very dry here. And a large portion of my business is just fixing cracks. So you know, it's a good idea to make sure you keep things humidified. I'm even going to show you the humidifier that I use. I've shown this in the past, but this is what I use, and this is what I recommend to all my clients. I use these little damp it things here. There's just a garden hose inside a piece of rubber, or a sponge inside a piece of rubber like a garden hose with a whole bunch of holes drilled in it, and you put in some water, squeeze out the excess, and then put it in your guitar, and you can either just let it suspend in the strings, or if you want to play your guitar, take it out of the case, shove it down inside there is what I do. Keeps things humidified when you're playing as well. So that's what I recommend, and sometimes in Colorado I'll even use 2 of these because it's very dry. I've seen those humidistat type packs come in, and they're just doing no good whatsoever here in Colorado. Question?
Vic from Colombia. Robert, what kind of brand of blade are you using to make the slot of guitar bridge? You said 2 millimeters? I can't find one. I appreciate your help. Thank you, Robert.
Well, that's done in Colombia, so I don't know how much access you have to saw blades, and this is getting a little off topic, but I use a little circular saw blade. It's 7 1/4 inch, just a standard circular saw blade, and I get the thin kerf, and they come in just a hair under 2 millimeters. That's what I use. Boy, these questions are coming in fast here, aren't they?
Yeah. Flavius Brown mentioned LMI should have a European dealer. Too expensive, the importation duties and taxes. I think this is from Portugal.
All right, so LMI, if you're listening, they want you to have a dealer in Europe so that you can get things a little easier over there to the folks in Europe. So, message has been given. Yes?
Brian Chica. Thoughts on adjustable angle necks and used by Greg Smallman?
Oh, okay. That's one I didn't have on my list to talk about. Adjustable neck angles. Trevor Gore, Smallman, the Australian school likes this a lot. I personally don't use them, but for folks that are traveling on the road all the time and they're going from constant extremes, you know, high humidity to low humidity, that top's moving around, your action suffers. And it's a very quick way of dialing in the action because you can adjust that neck angle to accommodate the shifts in relative humidity. I don't have that one on my list. I also don't have floating fretboards or floating tenons and that kind of stuff. I don't have that on my list. But do your research on those. If you want to use adjustable neck angles, you certainly can. I'm not opposed to them. Yes.
John Alexander, Rob, how tight should the dovetail joint be to allow fog glue space on the archtop dome?
It should be very tight. Dovetails, and we're going to get into this in a minute. If you're using a dovetail, they should be nice and tight. They should be snug. Now, you don't want to have to pound them in with a hammer, but you do want to be able to mash them in with your hands and clamp them, and they should be snug. If there's any movement in there, you're relying on the glue to do what the craftsman should have done. Don't rely on the glue. The craftsman should be doing his job and let the glue do its job. Yes?
Larry Yatha.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Larry. There is an extensive article about ice cream cone used in a relatively recent issue of Asia.
Was it Asia Magazine?
Yeah, magazine.
Oh, okay. The ice cream cone is, according to Larry, Asia Magazine had an article on the ice cream cone heel that Martin used to use. So yeah, check that out at Asia Magazine.
Ferrari. Are those cleats for repair or added as part of the build?
What was that? Was that on here? Oh, he's probably talking about these cleats here. Those right there, I do that when I build my guitars. Now, this is an old top I just keep around. This is probably about 15 years old. I've changed what I do now, but I still put little cleats in there. I call those my shipping insurance cleats. When the FedEx driver drops it off the back of the truck as he's delivering stuff, I just sleep better at night knowing that those are across the center seam. Next question, Adina.
So Mark, Robbie, speaking of body geometry, can you speak about the body angle from the sound hole to the neck joint?
Body angle from the sound hole to the neck joint. I don't know what it is. I've never measured it. And when I go over and show you the LMI jig, in fact, let me just give you a quick little look there. Ha-ha, there's the LMI jig. Everybody see the LMI jig there? That's what we're going to be talking about here in a few minutes. I started talking about electric guitars, and I'm eventually going to get back to talking about the electric guitar joints there. But here in a few minutes, I'm going to walk over to the other side of my shop, and we're going to talk about the LMI jig there, which you're now getting a top view of. All right.
So I guess Steve Foss made a few comments about the 3-card Monty.
Okay.
Tell see you later, good luck. And oh my goodness. He keeps showing up at my door and wants magic performed, but beats the heck out of a guitar. He plays for a famous 1960 classic rock band.
Wow, okay.
It's 3-card Monty. So there's this thread between them.
Oh, okay, they're talking among themselves there. All right, that's fine.
And then Reza, what kind of neck joint do you see on a classical cutaway guitar? Do you also use a truss rod?
Very good question. I'm going to get into classical neck joints here in a minute. I use a Spanish heel on my non-cutaways and also on my cutaways, but I do not use a truss rod. And I've got a neck blank over here from a classical guitar. I'm going to show you here in just a minute. Let's see, are the braces above the sound hole radiused before being glued against a flat surface? No, they're not. They're not radiused at all. They're flat. Upper tongue, I call it the upper transverse brace and the tongue depressor. Both of those are flat. Okay. By the way, I just completely jumped into things here and forgot to mention a couple of things about my website. So I'm going to take a little pause here. Keep your questions coming, and we're going to talk just a couple minutes about my website and some new things I got coming out here. So let me just pull that up. There we go. Now you should be seeing my website, and what you see there is the violin making course that I launched here just 2-3 weeks ago with Lucas Fabro of Fabro Violins over there in Cremona, Italy. And he did a fantastic course. There's a bunch of videos there that you can see. Those are free videos. Just click on them. Talks about intro, materials, and arching, and all kinds of sample lessons there, tools, etc. And then you've got over 150 lessons there of how to build a violin. And you can also buy individual chapters, as you can see there. So I'm very proud of that course. Both Lucas and I are very proud of that course, and so feel free to dial in on that. By the way, it's 20% off right now, and that will go away, I believe, on the 27th. My developers programmed that to go away to make room for the next course, which is coming March 1st, and that's Jeff Jewett. He's the finishing guru down there at Homestead Finishing Products. Anything you want to know finishing, he's your guy. And he has put together a course called Leveling, Wet Sanding, and Buffing Made Simple. And, you know, putting the finish on an instrument is only half the battle. What you do after the finish is on there is the other half. And you better do it right. If not, it's not gonna look good at all. Doesn't matter how well you put it on there. So he's going to show you how to rub it up to, or buff it up to very high gloss by hand and by machine. Also, he's going to show you how to do it lower sheens, satin, matte, that kind of thing. He's going to talk about P grade versus cami grade, which, you know, a lot of people don't know the grading of sandpaper systems. Why he sands to P5000, rubbing out by hand and by machine, all kinds of different stuff. So that's his coming out March 1st. It will have an introductory rate for the first couple weeks. And the other one that is coming soon there, you can see, is Inlay Techniques with Larry Robinson. And you can tell by the thumbnail there that Larry really knows his stuff. I mean, he does these fancy guitars out there and has been doing this for like 45 years. I'm very proud of that course as well. We're putting the finishing touches on the filming of it, and then I get to jump into the editing process of it. All right, let me get back up here to the scene I want to get. Let's see. There we go. I should be back now. Oh, you guys thought I left, but I'm back. All right, so I neglected, since we just jumped right into the questions there. Deanna, how's those questions doing? We okay?
Well, we have Tony R. Do you have a preferred heel shape that tends to make the neck joint more or less stable or durable than others?
I don't rely on the heel shape for stability of the neck joint. On my classical guitars, you know, I use a traditional classical stiletto type pointed heel. On my steel string guitars, I use what's either what I call a letter C or a letter D, because I think it looks a little bit better on a steel string guitar rather than the traditional classical type pointed heel. And I make it about 40 millimeters wide and about 20 millimeters out. So that's what I use, but I don't think the heel, if you do the neck joint properly, contributes much stability to that neck joint. Okay.
Flavio Sobral. What are your thoughts about double tops in balsa or Nomex?
Ah, double tops. Now that's getting off topic again. See, here you go. You're getting me sidetracked here. I got a phone call last week from a gentleman in Frankfurt, Germany named Gernot Wagner. And every now and then Gernot would just call me up out of the blue and we'll just talk for an hour or so. Gernot is the inventor of the double top. And we're talking about perhaps documenting the construction method on video. Won't happen this year. He's too busy, I'm too busy, and we got COVID in the way. But perhaps 2022, I'll be in Frankfurt and be filming that. Nomex is fine. Balsa and other wood products are fine as well. And that's going to be part of the online course, if we can ever get it made, about all the different types of glues used, all the different types of materials used. So stand by. Hopefully 2022 I'll be able to proudly be able to put that up on my website. Okay.
Alvin Moritz. Robert, with the extra tension on the neck and body of 12-string guitar, what type of neck joint would be ideal? Also, what type of bracing would you use?
12-string guitar neck joints. Well, there's a person here on the chat group, Peter, I believe, that he built a 12-string guitar, and if I'm not mistaken, he did a Spanish heel, and it's been working fine all of these years. I would probably do either dovetail or bolt-on mortise and tenon, but you really need to think about the structural integrity of a 12-string guitar anyway, not only the neck joint, but the top and the thickness and all that kind of stuff. But I think I mean, Peter, he swears by the Spanish heel on that guitar, so okay. That's what you could use if you wanted to, but really think about it. Do your homework before you just start building. Okay.
T-Matt, what's your thoughts on dowels for a neck joint?
Dowels, that's another one I don't have on my list, and you usually see those on the ukuleles. You see like a biscuit, a spline, or a couple of dowels to join the neck, and that's fine. I've seen people do it on the guitars as well. That's fine. It's just not one that I use, and it's not very common. The most common ones are the ones we're going to discuss here, if I can ever get to them. Go ahead.
Paul Walton, can the LMI neck jog be used to set a neck on a tenor ukulele?
Can the LMI neck jig be set to on a tenor ukulele?
Yeah.
You'll have to modify it somewhat, and there are people using this neck angle jig for archtops, for ukuleles, mandolins, other types of instruments other than guitars. You'll probably want to modify the templates a little bit, but yes, there are people doing that. Okay.
Alvarado, with straight transverse brace, how do you maintain the neck angle form, neck joint, to the sound hole when the fingerboard is attached?
Okay, when you attach the fingerboard, on my guitars, there's usually about an 89, 88 degree angle, and we'll talk more about this when I go over into the jig. And so when you glue the fretboard on, it's up in the air, about a 32nd or a 64th, and you just lightly fold that down and glue it to the top. I glue my fretboards to the top. And then I do my fretwork after the neck is attached. That way I can level that fretboard. I don't get what people call that ski jump or hump there. So that's the way I do it. If you want to learn a little bit more about the complete method, which I don't have time to go into here, just get my acoustic guitar building course. I explain all of that in great detail. Okay.
Neil, when using barrel bolts for a bolt-on neck, would you recommend laminating the cheeks of the tenon?
I don't. I don't. Some people do, and I'm going to show you here in just a few minutes. I swear I am. I'm going to show you some of these neck joints that you're talking about. Okay.
Ferrari just making a comment. If in Frankfurt, look when Mucksmith is in town. It's the NEM show time.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
All right. Let's see. Neil, when using barrel bolts, did we just answer that one? Yes, okay. Okay, here, I'm caught up now with the NEM if you want me to read these. After using the radius dish for sanding the top, do you go back and sand from the sound hole up flat to get the right angle? I radius the rims in the radius dish. The top, everything below the sound hole was glued up in the radius dish, everything above the sound hole was glued up on a flat surface, and then I just lightly press them together. When I scrape my bindings flush, I do a little bit of sanding in that area, but it's already pretty flat. and then a little bit of sanding where the sides meet, because that's what I call the foundation of the neck joint. It's just like building a house. If your foundation is square and plumb, then as you build up, the roof fits. If your foundation, in other words, where the sides come together and where the top comes together, if it's not square and plumb, in other words, if everything's not flush, then you've got problems. You build up, you compound the problem. You go to set that neck angle. Imagine your sides coming in like this and one's a little lower. Can you imagine setting a neck on that? So you really need to get all that stuff dialed in, and the LMI neck angle jig is perfect for that. By the way, did I mention we're giving away an LMI neck angle jig here in a few minutes? Click on the link there, put in your email address and your name. Cesar, if you can hear me down in Brazil, I know you're about a 40-second delay. Let us know how many people have already signed up there so we can announce that. All right, getting back to a few questions here. How thick do you make your neck blocks? Well, up on the heel end, I make it 32 millimeters thick. And that's because I use a bolt-on neck, and that screw, any more than 32 millimeters, has trouble grabbing that dowel that I put in the tenon there. So I use 32 millimeters.
Did you answer Jason Brown? Can you discuss cantilevered?
Can you discuss cantilevered necks? Cantilevered necks. Cantilevered is what I call the, what's the name of it? The elevated fretboards. I think that's what you're referring to. I don't use elevated fretboards on my guitars. I'm not opposed to them. Now, that's kind of a misnomer too, in my opinion, because the fretboard and the neck are in the same position. It's not really elevated. What happens is people lower the rims of that top as it goes into the neck, and so it just leaves that thing elevated. But it's really not elevated. Your guitar is not as thick as it normally would be in that area, at least not the way I would do it. Let's see. How thick do you make your neck blocks? Talked about that. TJ, opinion on a slipper foot neck block on steel string. Slipper foot, I assume you're talking about the Spanish heel, Spanish foot, this type of thing here. It's called the Spanish foot. Rather than just a block, you have this part that goes on into the guitar. Not opposed to it. Like I said, Peter did 12-string Spanish heel steel string guitar, and it worked. Can you use a tenon and a mortise on a classical guitar? Yes, you can. And can you use the neck angle jig? Yes, you can. The problem with that is on the steel string guitar, the neck goes this way. On a classical guitar, the neck goes this way, or 90 degrees. I usually tip it a couple millimeters this way. And I always forget if that's called positive neck or negative neck. It's the opposite of what I usually say. So classical guitar goes away from the player in the angle, and the steel string guitar comes towards the player in the angle. But yes, you can use the neck angle jig for that, and there's many people that do that. Okay?
Are you getting to the neck joints today?
Who is that?
Gosh.
I'm getting there. We're talking about neck joints, but I'm going to show you something in a minute. If so, should the gap at the saddle position be the same that you would use for a steel string? No, it's completely different, and I discuss those measurements in my classical guitar building course. Will you be getting to the neck joints? Yes, I will. Hang on just a minute. Your thoughts on finishing with true oil? I'm going to skip over that one. True oil makes a great finish, but that's not really the topic for today. What do you think of the journey system for the travel guitar? You take the neck off before putting it in the bag. Fantastic. A year or so ago, I was up at a gig here in Colorado, and I sat down and spoke with Muriel Anderson, who has a harp guitar that she travels all over the world with, and it folds up and puts into the overhead compartment, and she opens it back up, and it's pretty close to being in tune. So that's fine. I did an interview with her. I don't think I've released that video yet, but maybe one of these days I will. Top radius is so flat, and top is flop, so that will, with little pressure, they will be together. That's correct. 75 entries so far. Thank you, Cesar. If anybody else wants to get in on this.
How do we answer? Somebody's asking.
How do you what? How do you enter it? Click on that link that's in the top of the chat box there. Click on that link and email and name, and you'll be eligible. There we go. Bruce Jones, Robbie, when determining the truss rod orientation for a steel string, do you prefer body or headstock adjustment? Does the material removed from the upper transverse affect stability? I beef up my upper transverse braces a little bit because I access through the sound hole. Now, there's some very famous repair people and builders out there that think I'm nuts for accessing on the body end of the guitar. I have no problem accessing that truss rod. And that's what I prefer to do because I think it makes the neck end a lot more stable. But if you want to put it on the neck end, that's fine, except you have to, make a little cover or cap or something. That's fine, whatever. All right, let's get back to the neck joint jigs here because somebody's getting pretty upset here. Not the jig, but the actual joints. I showed you one on an electric guitar. Here's another type of joint on electric guitars. And this is just using screws with ferrules. And then you just route a cavity here and just set the neck in there, and then what secures it is the string or the ferrules there with the screws. By the way, this finish, this is a highly figured piece of maple veneer that I put on this guitar and then just painted the rest of it black. This type of finish, I believe I have a YouTube video out there I did over 10 years ago that shows you how to do this type of finish. And I will give you a hint. Shoe dye is what I use to pop the grain. So if you want to find that YouTube video out there, it's out there somewhere. You can learn how to do this type of finish. So that's the second type of, oh my God, that's the second type of neck joint that you use on steel string or electric guitars. Here's a Les Paul carved top type guitar. And on this one, you route your cavity for your neck, but look there, there's no screws to hold it in. The only thing holding this in is glue. And whether you use hot hide glue or yellow glue or whatever, but that's the way that neck is attached on this guitar. And so those are probably the three most popular type of neck joints for electric guitars. So let's start getting into the acoustic world. Then I'll take you over there and show you the jig. How's those questions, Adriana? We okay?
Let me check. I was checking my phone. Over 100 people.
Over 100 people.
Now.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I certainly appreciate this. Here's a classical guitar. This is just a neck blank that, heck, I don't even know where I got this thing. Maybe from LMI, because they're doing a semi-carved or pre-carved type neck. But uses what we call the Spanish heel. Now, the Spanish heel, the sides just slip in here. Let me get this in the right orientation here. So there's the neck. And you just slide the sides right into those grooves that have been cut there. And then this one uses a Spanish type foot. Of course, you can shape all this and make it look pretty if you want to, and then the rest of it has to be shaped and carved. But this is what I use on my guitars, my classical guitars. I use the Spanish heel. In fact, if you'll hand me that guitar hanging up there, I can even just show them what it looks like.
This one here?
Yeah, that's fine. Just pull it off the hook there. And be careful with all the wires. I got wires going everywhere here, folks. Here's a guitar I just got hanging in the shop here. Let me see if I can get this close enough to the camera. But see how the sides just slide right into the slots that I've cut there? And then you just build the guitar that way. There you go. Down here you go. Obrigado. Okay, let's see. Another type of neck joint would be this type of joint here. And this is a bolt-on mortise and tenon, but it only has one bolt. And it's down towards the bottom because that's where the torque is coming for the string tension. And this one uses, instead of side barrel nuts, which I'm going to show you here in a minute on the guitars that I use, it uses just a threaded insert. And then you just come in and place that in there like that and cut a mortise on your guitar and then bolt it up. This is a neck that came into my shop that needed some repair work. I had to replace the peg head veneer and do an inlay to replace the one that I took off. And there it is. But I want you to note the finish on this. Let me see if I can get that shiny. Look at that. This is just right off the spray gun. And let me just talk I know this is kind of off topic a little bit, but let me just talk a little bit about spray guns. I'm using a gun that I got from Jeff Jewett at Homestead Finishing. Jeff is, like I said at the beginning of this broadcast, anything finishing, Jeff's your guy. He has put together a spray gun package especially for luthiers. It has two spray guns in it, one with a smaller needle, one with a little larger needle and a little larger cup. And he sells them through LMI, I believe. But I use those guns. I used the larger gun to spray lacquer on this. It was 45 degrees in Colorado yesterday. That's beautiful weather in Colorado for spraying lacquer, by the way. So I sprayed this, and that is just right off of the gun. I mean, look at that. I almost don't even have to rub that out. Look at that. So If you're having issues with spraying, then call up LMI or Jeff and get the spray gun packages he's put together especially for luthiers. That's just right off the spray gun. So anyway, that's one way of doing a bolt-on mortise and tenon, right like that. Just right into the sound hole. Now let's get to the joint that I use. How are we doing with questions? We got some more questions there?
Yeah, I don't know if you got to this one here. Your thoughts on Yamaha using epoxy on neck joints from early 70s?
Yamaha using epoxy for neck joints, it's a repair person's nightmare. Please don't put epoxy in your neck joints. Use either yellow glue, PVA type glue, or hide glue, something that's somewhat reversible. Okay.
There's Stephan's. Wow, I just
okay. Muriel's travel harp guitar is built by Lucas Brunner in Levin, Switzerland. Yes, I knew that. She told me that on the interview I did with her. If using a bolt-on neck, do you fret the neck off the guitar or bolt the neck on before fretting? In my construction method, I attach the neck without the fretboard. I then put the fretboard on. That way I can level and radius it on the guitar. I've just had better results with that. I know that some people out there, like the neck I just showed you, by the way, had the fretboard on with the fretwork done. And that's the way the guitar came in. I replaced the fretboard, and so I'm spraying it off the guitar, so that's the way I chose to do this one. But normally I level and radius the fretboard once it's been attached. The neck has been attached and the fretboard extension has been glued to the body. Okay.
I used ink, blue, black, green, red, diluted in alcohol to pop a finish.
Yep, that would work.
Okay.
He's talking about that green guitar I showed here in just a minute. What kind of glue do you use for your neck joint on an acoustic? I don't use glue in my neck joint. It's a bolt-on mortise and tenon, and I'll show you here in just a second, but I don't put any glue in it. Doesn't need it. I have read that the bolt-on offers better sustain. Is that true in your experience? That's a very good question. If you ever, every now and then I'll get a guy call me on the phone or a student to come in and says, it's got to be a dovetail. That is just totally superior to any other neck joint out there. I say, oh, okay. And I'll hand them a guitar and I say, wow, tell me what kind of neck joint's on there. And they can't tell you. They have no idea whether it's a dovetail or bolt-on mortise and tenon or whatever. So I throw the BS flag when people say that. If you can hear the difference between neck joints with your ear, then more power to you, but I certainly can't. Thanks for the time from your hectic schedule. I certainly appreciate that. 3-card Monty. Also, what type of glue under the fretboard? I use just regular PVA type glue, and I get my glue from LMI. I use the Instrument Maker's glue. CA is a wonderful thing. I wouldn't use that to glue a fretboard on, though. I have absolutely no experience with any type of wood working. How long in the program to build one would it take for someone that wants to build one? Oh, I'm not sure I quite understand that, but if you do my online course, I've had guys take a year or more. I've had guys buy it in a couple weeks. They've built a guitar. If you come and build a guitar with me, we do it in 6 days, spread out over 30 to 35 hours. And I have all of the jigs and equipment and everything here. So it takes as long as it needs to take. This is not we're not trying to break any speed records here. Although in my classes, I need to get it done in 6 days so guys can get on a plane and go home. Fish glue also works for neck joints. Yeah, fish glue works fine. Yeah, I like fish glue for repairs and stuff. Let's see. Cesar is talking about my multiple finishing courses on my website. Thank you for doing that, Cesar. Thoughts on using phenyl formaldehyde resin for neck joints? I've never used it. I think either hot hide glue, fish glue, or yellow glue is what I use. All right, here we go. Here's my joint that I use in my guitar, and I've just made a quick mock-up here. I just got a couple of 2x4s and glued them together, and some MDF and glued them together. And I use a bolt-on mortise and tenon, just like you see there. And there's the bolts in the end. And so I come in, let me just take these bolts out here real quick. And we'll go over to the neck angle jig. By the way, we're giving away an LMI neck angle jig here in a few minutes. So if you want to get in on that, then time's running out. In fact, we probably should close this off here in the next few minutes, Cesar, so we can keep to our time limit here. So if you haven't done it yet, go ahead and do it. So there you go. See the side of the tenon? I put the little barrel nuts in there, drill some holes here. Then in the guitar, this would be the block inside the guitar. Then attach the neck, make sure everything's flush up top, run your screws in there. Now I'm going to run over to the neck angle jig and explain briefly how I do this. By the way, I put out a video a week or two ago about how to use this neck angle jig. One of my students was here with me, and we just filmed the process. And so if you want to jump into it a little bit more, just click on that link. I think Cesar's going to put that in the chat box there, so you guys can see actually how the jig is used. I'm not going to do that in today's stream, but I have done it in the past, and you guys can dial it up. Another quick question here. What polish do you use for the final stages? Cheers from England. We're not talking about polish today, but I use French polish in my classes here on my guitars as well. By the way, any tight-fitting neck joint will transfer tone just fine. That's correct. However, I don't keep this joint very tight. I want a little slop in there. First of all, I want the neck to be able to move like this in case I need to move it like this. If the neck's a little twisted, a little high on one side, I want to be able to level it out. So I leave a little bit of slop, let's say for lack of a better word, inside that tenon and the mortise. Also, if you're off your center line a little bit, if that sucker's in there snug, you can't get it to move. So you want a little bit of movement in there so you can come in and floss it like I show in the video. You can come and floss a little bit and get that center line. So let's go over to the jig here. At the end, I'm going to have you run the switcher here if you don't mind. And I'm going to start with this one right there. So if you just run the rest of it there for me if you don't mind. Okay. I'm going to walk over here to this side of the shop. Hopefully you can still see me. This is the LMI neck angle jig, and I've made a few changes to it. First of all, the templates that you can get here, I've got the straight mortise and tenon templates in here, and you can certainly put in the dovetail mortise and tenon or the angled mortise and tenons if you want to. Just swap out the templates, and LMI has those. Then hit the floor camera there for me if you would, please.
That's where you are.
No, I'm up top.
Oh, sorry, I was in the wrong camera then.
Oh, okay. Oh, so hit that top one again. Let me explain that again. There we go. So what I was talking about here is this, the mortise and the templates here. These are for the straight mortise and tenon. You can swap these out for the angled mortise and tenon. In other words, the dovetail. Here's one of the modifications I've done to the jig. Is I came in with a sander and I opened this area up a little bit. That way I don't have to do any pre-shaping of my heel. I just stuff it in there and the router does all of the work instead of me doing all the work. The LMI one comes a little smaller, so if you just want to open that up, that's one of the modifications you can make to the jig. Hit the floor camera for me now, please. There we go. So down here is where you would place the neck, and let me just grab a neck here. I don't have a truss rod slot cut in this, so it's not going to fit on there, but what you do is you just take these two things off here, and you'll see a couple of pins. These are just plastic or nylon 1/4 inch dowels, and if this were a true neck, it would have a truss rod slot cut in there, and then you just place that right onto the pins there, and then put these on there and then clamp it up. And that holds the neck securely to the shelf right here. Now, make sure that your pins, when you assemble this jig, LMI sends this jig to you and you have to put it together. So when you put it together, make sure you have everything well aligned so that you're not off a little bit. If you're off a little bit, it's not the end of the world, but you want to try and keep things as aligned as possible. And one of the areas that you could screw up is by not getting your dowel pin right on the shelf there. Also, if those pins don't fit snugly inside your truss rod slot, there's a little slop in there, you could be off. So a couple of things you want to look out for. Go check out that video. I show how to actually use the jig. It'll answer a lot of your questions. And then go back up top here, please. Camera 2, I think. Yep, there we go. All right, so where this jig really shines is you can do the mortise on one side, which is here, and then the tenon on the other side here. And this jig, I talk about it in the video that I did recently. I used to have this in two separate parts. I'd clamp a part over the body and cut the mortise, and then I'd clamp a part over the neck and do the neck. And one of my students, Rolando Padron, down there in Victoria, Texas, said, hey, I think we can incorporate these into one jig, and that's what he did, and then LMI started making it. So there you go. To cut the mortise and tenon, I use a plunge router, which you just happen to see right here. I know, what are the chances of me having a plunge router just laying around for you guys to see, right? I know, it's amazing. So if you're not familiar with plunge routers, make sure you get familiar with them before you go to your guitar and start working on it. But plunge router there, cut it in multiple passes. Obviously you don't want to do it in one pass. If you're doing a dovetail, hog the majority out with your straight cut bit, and then you have to do your final pass to put the angle on the dovetail with the dovetail bit. Speaking of bits, what I use is a straight cut bit. This is a 1/2 inch straight cut bit, and I use a guide bushing. The guide bushing follows the template pattern here and puts that into your neck or to your body. What I use is a 5/8 inch outside diameter guide bushing, 17/32 inside diameter guide bushing, and a 1/2 inch straight cut bit. That's for the straight mortise and tenon. Now you don't have to worry all that. Just pick up your phone, call LMI. They'll set you up with the right guide bushing and the right straight cut bit. If you're doing the dovetail, then you're going to need the dovetail bit as well. So LMI can help you with that. And if you clamp, then I want you to hit the floor camera again, please. So this side, you stuff your body up in there and then just clamp it up. I usually clamp it until I hear a crack, and then I back off a 1/4 turn, and then you know you're nice and secure in there. No, I'm kidding. You don't want to hear a crack. And then I come into the top side, cut the mortise in the body. Then this side, go ahead and clamp your neck up in there, and this is where this jig really shines. This shelf down here is on hinges, and it pivots, allowing you to dial in the correct neck angle. And go back up top, please. Top camera, which would be this one. Yep. So if you just place your body on here with your neck clamped down in there, and then measure, I haven't got my camera quite high enough here, but if you measure the gap at the saddle location, I look for 3.5 millimeters. That's the specs I look for on my guitars. And if you watch that video how to use the jig, then you'll learn all about that geometry and why I do that. One other thing that is just a quick tip: when you're cutting the tenon here, this is adjustable to accommodate the depth of the body. Now, if you're doing a dread guitar, this thing goes way down here because that dread neck is nice and long. If you're doing a smaller body guitar, like an OM, you slide this up, and you can look inside here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's an aluminum hinge in there. It's been all chewed up. That's because my students like to run into that. There's plenty of room to not run into that, but if you're worried about that happening, just take your stick or something, put some double stick tape on it, and just that way when your router hits it, it'll stop before it chews up your hinges. Happened to a friend of mine once. So that's how you get around that. Also, here's another quick little tip. Make yourself a shim for the depth of how far you want to cut your mortise or cut your tenon. I use 7/8 of an inch. And so I just made the super high-tech block here. I set up my router to that. And I always stop short about 1/8 to 3/16 before I get all the way down to the final depth. I then take that neck out of here and go and put it on the body, and I check my neck angle. If I'm off, which sometimes I am, I've got that 1/8 of an inch or 3/16 of an inch to come in and redeem myself and readjust that angle before I have to finally put it on the body and do it by hand. So there we go. That's the neck angle jig, and I guess we should get into the drawing here.
We have 5 minutes.
All right, so here we go.
Questions?
We got more questions. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just tell Cesar down there. Where's my phone? I got to call him.
There it is.
All right, so Cesar, go ahead and close it off, and we're going to go ahead and do the drawing here. And there's about a 30 to 40 second delay down there for Cesar, so it's going to give him a second to get that. Also, once we announce the winner, I'm going to give you a minute or two to speak up because you have to be present to win. So, Cesar, go ahead and let me just give him a call. Man, isn't technology great? I've got this little cell phone here. I'm going to call him up on WhatsApp and just tell him to go ahead and start that.
It's at 1 minute.
1 minute.
Yeah.
Let's see if he's going to answer the phone here. He's not even going to answer.
It's at 1 minute.
Oh, maybe he went out to lunch. Well, he should answer his phone, though. Here, I'll let you. There he is. Hey, guys. Hello. For those of you who don't know, this is Cesar, all the way down there in São Paulo, Brazil. This is my web developer. He does a fantastic job. If you have any compliments on my website, it's because of him. He does such a great job. So, Cesar, how many people have we got there for the drawing?
Today we broke a record.
We broke a record, he says.
93 people.
93 people have entered the drawing. Man, that's fantastic. So you want to go ahead and do it? That way we got a couple minutes for somebody to speak up if they win.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay, you want
Actually, we have 95.
95. A couple of people just slipped into the back door there.
Yeah, Paul is closed it now, and okay.
All right.
So let me just turn the camera.
All right. So he's going to show me. I'm going to try and show you here. So here we go. Can everybody see that? We got 95 people, and he's written a little program. When he pushes play on that sucker, it's going to randomly choose a winner. So go ahead and push that. Let's see what we get.
Number 92.
Number 92 was the winner. And who was that?
One of the last people, which is Mike Smith.
Mike Smith. Come on down. You're the lucky winner of the LMI neck angle jig. Mike Smith. Now, since there's a delay going on here, I'm going to give Mike a minute or two to speak up here. Just say something in the chat box there, Mike, and I'll give you a minute or so. And if you don't speak up here in the next minute or two, then we're going to go ahead and do this drawing again and find somebody else. In the meantime, Cesar, you can just hang on the line there if that's okay.
Yes, sure.
And then I'll just continue here. Something funny, last time I did the stream, Shop Talk number 2, I called Cesar, we did the drawing, we finished the stream, and about 5 or 10 minutes later, I heard something going on, like some noise. I was, what the heck? And it was Cesar. He says, hey, I'm still on the line. He was still there. All right, Mike Smith, are you there?
Let's wait.
He hasn't spoken up yet. So as we're waiting for Mike to speak up, I'm going to ask or answer a few more questions here. Let me scroll back up here. Let's see. Thoughts on using. We've already gotten to that one. What polish? We already got into that one. Have you ever used wedges like Romanides uses to attach the rims to the neck? Yes, I have. In fact, I was in Sigüenza, Spain in 2011 or 2012, I think. I actually studied with Jose Romanides. Got a guitar in the room there that I built with Mr. Romanides, and we used the wedge system. Basically, it's the Spanish heel, which is this. And rather than a small slot, he cuts a larger slot, puts his sides in there, and then just wedges them forward on the heel there. And that's an excellent way of doing it. And he had us put glue on those wedges. And I thought, you could probably make a detachable neck if it came to that, if you just didn't put glue. You could somehow chisel those wedges out of there and pull your neck off if you had to. But yes, I'm familiar with that method. I don't use it now. I just use this method here.
Okay, he's there. Mike.
Is Mike there?
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations, Mike.
Great.
There he is. All right. Monterey. That must be out there in California then, huh? So, Mike, here's what you need to do. First thing Monday morning, contact LMI. Just call them on the phone, and I'm going to send your information over and say, hey, Mike Smith is the person that won. So all you other guys out there, don't try calling LMI and saying you won. It's just Mike. So I'm going to send that information over to Chris Herod there at LMI, and he's going to ship you out free of charge one of the neck angle jigs. And you have now no more excuses for having the wrong neck angle on your guitar. Word of caution, always do a test piece. Always do a test piece. Cesar, I'm going to hang up here because there's no reason for you to hang on here now. Everybody say goodbye to Cesar. Goodbye, Cesar.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll call you back here in a little bit, Cesar. All right. Well, congratulations, Mike. All right, let's see if we got just a couple quick more questions. Abraços do Brasil. That's Barbosa Jr. Thank you for tuning in. Opening up the router template. Thank you. Everybody should be doing that. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Okay, what else? Hi, Robbie. I built a guitar with Kent Everett a few years ago and was wondering if your neck joint is similar or the same as his. I've studied with Kent also. Kent's a good friend of mine there in Georgia. He's using a bolt-on mortise and tenon. At least he was at the classes I've taken with him. Doing the bolt-on mortise and tenon. He does it a little different. Rather than the bolts coming into the side, the barrel nuts coming into the side, and then the bolts coming in this way through the body, he drops them through the top, stacks them one on top of each other, and still comes in with the bolts this way. Basically the same thing. So, yes, very familiar with that method. I think that's about it. Adriana, have you got any words of wisdom here?
No, thank you for attending.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Let's see. In honor of lovely Adriana, I had a wonderful glass of Mendoza Valley wine I got while in Rio during the stream. Very good. Thank you, Robbie, for your enthusiasm and passion for the craft. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Look at that. Mike Smith, I studied with you in person at your shop, May of 2019. Oh, this is the Mike Smith. If this is the Mike Smith that I'm thinking of, is it the Mike Smith?
I don't know, it's Michael Smith.
They used to always show up in the muscle cars?
I don't know.
I think it is.
I don't know.
If this is the Mike Smith that I'm thinking of, every time he's come and studied with me on 2 or 3 different occasions. He would show up in these fantastic muscle cars. He would rent these muscle cars at the airport, big Corvettes or big Dodge muscle cars, and we'd bring them over to the class. Fantastic. I think it's that guy. Here we go. Does LMI sell plans for the neck angle jig? They used to. Before they started making the jig, they would sell plans and a hardware kit, and they no longer do that. If you just want plans, you have to go to my website. Click on media and scroll down. There's or instruments, I think, and scroll down, and there's a thing for plans in there, and you can buy just the plans if you want. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I certainly appreciate that. I don't think there's any more questions. Adriana's been right at about an hour. You got anything else to say?
No.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I think that I hope that this has been helpful for you. And over and out. Thanks, folks. If I can just figure out how to turn this off now, then we'll just go ahead and turn this off. There we go.